What is the creepiest thing you've seen in the woods, or in the mountains, or in deserts, or caves, or in a small towns, or in remote or rural areas, or while on large bodies of water, or while on an aircraft or a nautical vessel? I was mountain biking in the woods and I came across an East Asian looking man in a perfectly fitted suit and a briefcase, just casually walking through the woods. I was driving home after an extremely late night at work. I lived in the middle of nowhere. About a mile before I got there, a woman covered in blood jumped out of the woods into the middle of the road screaming. I panicked and went around her, then slammed on the brakes to help. Her boyfriend had beaten her and was currently chasing after her in the woods. I got her in my car and called the police. They met us at the hospital because I told them there was no way I was waiting on the side of the road when he was coming. Bro, thank goodness you were there. I hope she got away from him after that. Went on a mountain hike in Transylvania with a group of friends from school, and way up, after maybe 12-14 kilometers of trekking, we saw a house, was in the middle of nowhere. It had a barn, with a few animals, couple of cows, chicken, etc. As we get closer, we see a few people, a guy and 5-6 women. Not sure if there were more inside. The dude comes to greet us, barely speaking the language. We had a hard time understanding what he's saying. They lived without electricity, gas, anything. This is in the early 90s, so there's no internet, mobile phones to worry about, at least for most people. Anyway, they all looked weird, kinda dumb expressions on their face. We can barely understand each other. They asked us who's the president now, and if we want some milk. They look at our clothes and shoes weirdly, curious, like who knows when is the last time they had human contact. Or maybe there were more crazies around those parts, dunno. Not sure to this day what was going on. It's not typical in the region, so we kinda freaked out, especially cause the dude looked a bit disturbed, and we were too young. We were looking around to see if there's more of them. Paranoia was getting to us, thinking there must be a village nearby. What was also weird is that all the women kept their distance, and never got close to us. Likely was guarding them, or checking us out, if it's safe for them. One of my friends kept saying we don't want their milk, and we need to go, cause it's getting dark. We walked calmly for a while, then when we thought we're out of their sight, bolted like crazy out of there. Needless to say, we camped after a few hours, and we always had one person awake to keep watch. We told people that were living in the villages near that area about the mountain people, and they didn't believe us. They said nobody lives there, up in the mountains. I was driving through rural parts of Missouri with a buddy. We drove down a single lane road that had no exit. At the end of the road, there was a group of deer corpses laid in a perfect circle. I'd say there was at least 10 deer. We GTFO real quick. I'd been at football training with a few of my cousins when I was about 10 years old. We decided to take a walk before our parents picked us up, so we went along the canal towpath. My cousin looked down in the canal and saw a really nice jacket floating along, and being a weird scavenger person decided to reach in to fish it out. Well, the jacket turned over, and so did the man wearing it. He also had no face left. Not gonna lie, that was rough. Found a deer with its hind end ate up. Few feet away was a coyote with the hind end ate up. Then another few feet away a fox with its hind end ate up. Nothing else was there. No bullet holes or signs of an arrow or anything else. Couldn't find any tracks from other people or animal. It was pretty creepy. Found in the hills of WV. I'm not superstitious at all, but there is some weird crap always going on in the Appalachians. This is probably less scary than a lot of the other posts, but I was pretty sure I was going to be the nameless victim at the start of a horror movie to show how dangerous the monster is. Basically, my dad and I were walking through the woods when we came across a young moose leg lying on the ground. It looked like it had been violently torn off with no sign of the rest of the moose anywhere. It was fresh with blood still on the wound, probably no more than a couple hours old. My dad is a pretty skilled hunter, so he handed me his axe that he was carrying and told me to watch for wolves while he started looking for tracks. After a little bit he came back saying, "That's weird, normally if it was wolves you'd be able to find paw prints, but I can't see any. Also no bear prints, so I have no idea what killed this." And so I'm like, "You didn't find any tracks at all?" And his very reassuring response was, "Well, I did find what appears to be the mama moose tracks headed this way," showing me the tracks. You can see how her stride is a lot longer here. Whatever killed her baby, she didn't want to fight it, she just took off running. He then pulls out his bear spray and holds it at the ready as we kept walking deeper into the woods with the unnamed non-track leaving predator armed with bear spray and an axe. When a freaking moose flees the scene, you better run fast. I am a night owl, so used to stay up late at the computer lab on my university campus. It was open until 2 AM. I was walking home and there were about 4-6 people covered in burlap robes and giant hoods, sitting cross-legged on the quad. The next morning, those suckers were still there. It was a chicken wire and burlap freaking art piece. Freaking art students. There's a section of Joshua Tree National Park called Samuelson's Rocks where an old Swedish prospector who lost his mind used to live. He carved all sorts of crazy sayings into the rocks. During the day they look pretty neat. At night in a lightning storm they look like something of a Lovecraft. Cowlitz River, Washington State. Camping with my dad and sister, me buddies. Early 90s. Something was throwing rocks and sticks into our camp. We shined a flashlight out and caught a reflection of eyes and a silhouette. Very tall. Kept throwing stuff in our camp randomly for about 15 minutes. We just stoked the fire really high. In the morning I woke up to heavy footsteps in our camp and something reeked. Woke up my dad. He shook the tent and yelled. Whatever it was ran off. Human retinas don't reflect light back at night. That's a fun little fact I like sharing around the campfire. I was on a camping trip with some friends of mine and we found like 7 or 8 chipmunks and squirrels all in a pile, but they were all dead without arms or legs. My girlfriend and I were hiking along some abandoned railroad tracks and we get to a small bridge going over a little creek. I'm about to go explore under the bridge when she points something out. I look over and in the woods across from us I see a guy. I'm like whatever and keep headed down to the creek area, and then the guy stands up and he's naked. We immediate backtrack pretty quickly to get away from there, and once we're like 1 minute down the trail I look back and this naked dude is just standing in the middle of the trail watching us walk away. I was a cook on board several NOAA research ships. Up in the Bering Sea, I saw what appeared to be a massive, black, triangular shaped craft dive under the water. I viewed it from a distance of maybe 2 nautical miles. I work as an autopsy technician. It's pretty regular happening and doesn't faze me now, but the first time I heard a remains exhale moan was pretty creepy. I'm a funeral director and the first time I heard this I dang near quit. My boss told me it was just him saying I was doing a good job. This was quite a few years ago now, but me and my friend had this really cool spot to hang out, in the woods. You had to walk in the middle of a creek for a km and duck through sharp bushes and thistles. The hike was well rewarding though. The spot was about half an acre big. It was pure green grass on a incline with beautiful clear water ponds everywhere. There was tons of wildlife and the butterflies lived there, so there was always tons of butterflies. So the story begins on the way to this place. My friend Levi and I were walking along the river on the way to the spot. It was in the middle of a valley and nobody else ever went down there. Suddenly Levi stopped moving and ducked into a bush. I did the same because I thought there must have been a large animal somewhere. I saw him staring up the hill and so I looked up too. There was 2 people standing at the top of the hill heaving back and forth a lifeless body. We watched as they threw the lifeless corpse down the hill as it bounced off the trees and eventually got stuck on a tree at the bottom. Then they took off. Me and him were terrified and I was shaking so badly I couldn't speak. So we decided to verify it was a real body. Levi got about 4 feet away before screaming, "It has nostrils. It's real. Run." So of course we take off running. And I glanced back to see the 2 people run back to the top of the hill. Me and him ran 2 kilometers through thick brush and trees to get away from them. The next day we were with his parents driving to town, and we saw like 10 fire trucks at the school closest to the forest. Terrified we told his parents, bawling our eyes out worried that we were going to get murdered. His mom started laughing at us and said, "They are training for search and rescue. That was a dummy that the fireman had to find." I never slept as good as I did that night. I like how Levi identifies a human body through its nostrils. I was walking with family when I was little and we came across a sheep's head. No body or blood, just a severed sheep's head on the path. It was the first time I noticed sheep's eyes have slit pupils and I think my first contact with something so gruesome. My friend and I were chilling in the woods one day back in high school and see a dog walking by, later followed by this kid. He looked troubled, so we asked if he needed help. He obliged, telling us he was dog sitting for his friend and the dog got loose. So we spent a good hour following this dog and kid around, going deeper and deeper into the woods. Eventually I finally got the dog to come to me, but it wasn't wearing a collar, so I wasn't able to get a hold. My friend and I look away for just few seconds to discuss strategy, and when we turned back around, the boy and the dog are both gone. It was like they completely vanished. Keep in mind it was autumn, so any footsteps could be heard from quite afar, but it was just silent, not a single trace of them anywhere. Still don't really know what happened. Maybe they ran away real quick, who knows. Was definitely enough to creep us out though. There's a story behind this. Boy and dog lost each other in woods and both died, but now reunited with your help. Fear freed of their bond to the land and now up in heaven. Almost seems like a quest. Walking on the beach with my boyfriend, and we had walked to a giant rocky cliff to make it. Somebody was just gazing at the ocean, crying and shaking. Mind you, this is late at night, like around 9:30 p.m. We asked him if he was okay. He apologized and practically ran back down the cliff, away from the dangerous areas. My boyfriend and I watched him until he reached the public area and decided to call it a night. I'm pretty sure he was going to jump. You just might have saved that dude's life that night. I was Boy Scout, camping with my group of older buddies and an adult leader in Yellowstone. We had been backpacking for 2 days and stopped in a beautiful little clearing at the bottom of some huge tree-covered hills. The sun started to set, we made a fire, and I began to climb up into the trees to dig a hole and fill it back up. You know what I mean. As I squat there, basking in moonlight and appreciating the glow of fire among the trees, I looked up to a ridgeline a few hundred yards away where the moon was rising. And I crap you not, I saw a dang big cougar crest the hill and just watch our fire. It was likely no danger to me, but seeing that outline, that unmistakable shoulder crawl they do, was haunting. I watched it sit there for a good 15 minutes until I was called back by my worried buds. I pointed the cat out to them when I got done because it was still just watching us. Crazy. I went to Philmont and they told us if you see a mountain lion, it's been watching you for the past 2 hours. Thanks. You have been visited by the horse-headed girl. Like this video quick or she'll eat all for your sugar cubes. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.